Hey, it is Thursday, June 11th, 2020, and this is the Pro and the Con Show, and I'm your host, Michael James Ott. Welcome to the show. So, doing these shows, and again, I have no idea how popular they ever will become, but they do them anyway. I'm doing them for free for the most part, thanks to Facebook Live and YouTube. Load up the content, and they let you do it whether, regardless how many people are watching. So good on that. That's kind of an extension of free speech. That's pretty good. So the point of the show is to encourage us all to be better citizens. And there's a couple of things that occurred to me. So the subtitle for today's show is news, and I want to talk about that. I hadn't shown these different streams of news that people can look at, and I was looking at them on a fairly regular basis. I hadn't done it for a while because there's these massive news stories around the coronavirus and so on. But today I'm going to go through the 5 different streams that have their various biases to them, and I think it's really enlightening actually to look at their front pages today, to see their top stories and how vastly different they are. But before I do that, I want to remind everybody that there is the opportunity on Independence Day, that's July the 4th, for all of us to, it's going to be a little bit different than what I originally envisioned when I first started talking about this months and months and months ago because of the COVID-19 coronavirus issues. But still, on July 4th, you can be out there in the open public, not anywhere as close as I originally had envisioned, but hopefully wearing masks because they seem to really help. I read an article today that there were 2 different employees at a Great Clips, and they were symptomatic, and they had 140 customers over 2 days, and none of those 140 have been diagnosed with COVID-19, and the main protection in the whole thing was these stylists were wearing masks, as were the customers, and washing their hands on a regular basis. In fact, I just got a haircut today at a Great Clips, a local Great Clips, and I'm hoping, knock on wood, that I'm going to be fine from that. It seemed like it should be okay. The woman that cut my hair seemed like she was in perfectly good health, and we were both wearing masks and stuff like that, and I mean, she had to get fairly close to cut my hair, but there was not a lot of like breathing directly on me, that kind of thing. So anyway, going back to Independence Day, so at noon Central Time, that's so 11 Mountain and 10 a.m. Pacific and 1 p.m. Eastern Time, we should all get out there and go to the streets and tell each other, I want to be a better citizen for you. I want to be a better citizen for you, and I'm hoping you'll be a better citizen for me. And what I mean by that, we have to be open to talking to each other, not yelling at each other, not instantly breaking down and calling each other, various despicable names, but actually listening. How did you get where you are? How did you come to this place? Whatever the issue is. And just say, but I'm here for you as an American, as a citizen. I'm here to tell you that I want to be and will be a better citizen going forward. And from my perspective, that means you're engaged and you're ferreting out the truth. Now, so that takes me to the news today. So let's just look at, so I've said in the past, so there's 5 different channels that I personally look at them on a regular basis, all of them. Not just one, not just the one that kind of most closely aligns with kind of my own personal bias or own personal worldview or whatever, but all 5 of them, because you find out things that you didn't even know. And then it's up to me to decide, given a greater spectrum of information, what the truth is amongst all that. And many times you'll see them cover the same stories, and you'll get different perspectives. But in today, just wildly different headlines. So Huffington Post, which generally is a fairly strong left-leaning, and again, I don't call it news, information source. Their top thing is there's this Corona bailout, and it was news for other outlets and for Huffington Post, but Mr. Trump said the portions of that bill that passed into law to have an internal inspector general oversee and provide information to Congress and stuff. He said we're not doing that. And now the Huffington Post, their top headline is these loans and billions. It's like $500 billion have been provided to hundreds and hundreds of different businesses, or actually millions. I think it's millions of businesses. The Treasury Department refuses to tell who they've provided those loans to. And normally, this is all associated with the Small Business Administration, and normally SBA loans, this is public information. Any financial assistance and so on is readily available public information. So why these politicians feel like they need to cover this up, that's Huffington Post's point. And I guess my point to you is you should be asking that question. Why do these politicians feel like, why do the people in overseeing this massive loan program, again with $500 billion, why are they saying that it all needs to be secret? Okay, so that was Huffington Post. So CNN, you have a few different headlines here. So we had a big drop in the stock market today. I talked about stocks the other day. And also they've fired up the election stuff. So they're tracking the potential or the forecast for the Electoral College. And also there's a story about GOP-led Senate panel refusing to abide by some of Trump's desires here. There's a bunch of Confederate names and stuff on various government buildings and military bases and so on, and the government is moving forward with getting rid of all those, and Mr. Trump doesn't want to do that. A significant number of his constituents want that history left on the buildings. So there it is. Now NPR, which tends to be fairly neutral in all this kind of stuff, I mean mostly, so their top story is the fact that the Dow went down so much. So it went down 1860. That's a lot. Not as big. I think there was a 3,000 or something right at the beginning of the whole pandemic thing. But yeah, 1860 today in one day. So that's there. So isn't that interesting? So far you can see the focus, and most of us don't go too far past the first page. And so, if you were only looking at CNN or NPR or Breitbart or whatever, if you only looked at the one, you wouldn't even have a clue in many cases that the stock market went way down, or that the Paycheck Protection Program loans that I was speaking of earlier are being kept confidential and secret for some reason. So let's look at Fox News. So Fox News, whoops, dang it. Here we go. So Fox News, their top headline is there's an area in Seattle, the city of Seattle, where some militants have kind of taken over, and they've kind of kicked the cops out of some blocks of the city. And yeah, so now there's a discussion about how aggressively the police should go back in and take over the law enforcement in that area. So, and that again kind of plays to the more conservative thing, with all of this, with the George Floyd murder in Minneapolis, St. Paul, and the ongoing protests and riots. There's a lot of discussion right now about police, and the conservatives generally, not always, but generally, are very supportive of the police, and the police can do, they have a wide margin of error in their policing duties, whereas others, more moderate and certainly left-leaning people, are saying, hey, they're way too far in this, and they're acting as hoodlums themselves, the police forces. So this is the kind of thing, and of course, to support the police version of it, or the more supportive of the police variant of the news, Fox is talking about this area in Seattle that doesn't have any police in it at the moment because civilians have kind of taken over. And then the last one is Breitbart. And Breitbart's top story is the fact that there's been a flood of businesses that have given, their tally here is almost $500 million towards causes like Black Lives Matter and other similar causes in support of people of color. And so I'm sure it's a story about that, but so my whole point behind today's show is you wouldn't know any of this, and I'm sure that, I don't know whether the figure of 454 million is right, but I'm sure it's not far off. I mean, I've read and seen many stories of various businesses publicly proclaiming and advertising that they're giving funds to these various organizations to support people of color, and basically to help proclaim that they are supportive of this effort to try to take another step forward, hopefully a significant step forward, in ridding our nation of racism and racist bias. And so again, interesting. And you need to be a well-informed consumer of information. So I beg you, please be a better citizen. Look out for the information. Look out for a spectrum of information, not just stuff that kind of parrots kind of your personal bias, because it's true. All the major stories of any day, pro and con, good and bad, for and against. And unless you're taking in all that information and balancing that the fact that there's pro and con, you're going to do a terrible disservice to your decision making and the laws that ultimately govern all of us. Hence, the Pro and Con Show. All right, so for Thursday, June 11, 2020, I'm Michael James Ott. Thanks for watching the show. Until the next show, bye for now.